but let's start with why we even do rootless chords. Now, this workshop is a workshop that I've wanted to do for quite a while because rootless chords are so important. Not just if you're going to be playing with a band or if you want to kind of do like a piano trio like Bill Evans or something. This is important even if you're doing solo piano, even important if you're doing, rock or pop piano working with a group. Because a lot of times you're not going to just want to be playing just basic chords with the root, especially if you have a bass player there. You're going to want to break up those chords, and I'm going to show you that a little bit later. So here's an example right here, just real basic. We can take a look at this. Pull this up, all right? And if I just play this with the block chords, this is what it sounds like. All right, so you can hear it sounds fine, but the block chords sound, well, blocky, right? And you might even say, as soon as I switch to the rootless chords, that, wait a minute, the rootless chords kind of look like the same thing, right? But the difference is that when you have the bass down here, you can see how now we have what's called upper structures, right? So when we have our basic C minor 7 chord here, that's my root, my third, my fifth, and my seventh. Okay, notice here I am doubling the root. So let's just say that we have a bass player, right? We have iReal Pro playing. So we have our bass player. Well, we're doubling that root. It's obviously unnecessary because, well, the bass player's already playing it. Is it kind of like, game over if you doubled the root? No, of course not. It would be absolutely fine, and you will notice that sometimes we might even do something like this, in which we might double the root up there. But when we have the root as our bottom note of the voicing, it just sounds a little bit more, square. Now listen to what it sounds like when I use the rootless chord voicing. Right, so you can hear that the rootless chord voicings add a layer of sophistication. Why? Because now when we were playing the block chord, just the plain old C minor 7 chord, we're playing the root, the third, the fifth, and the seventh. We're getting all the notes of the chord that we need, but we're not getting any tension. We're not adding any spice. So another way of looking at this, I like to use cooking as an example. This is like kind of cooking scrambled eggs, just plain. You put nothing in it. No salt, no pepper, no nothing. The rootless chords is kind of like adding some seasoning to it, and it just kind of like perks it up just a little bit more, all right? All right, so we can see here that, and again, I apologize. I know in these workshops I kind of talk a little bit fast. I kind of do that on purpose because we have a lot of material to cover, and also I'm trying to balance it because I know some of you are kind of brand new, some of you are, have been around for quite a while playing, so I'm trying to balance that. And all right, so now let's get into building the rootless chord voicings. So the first thing is we start with the guide tones. We're going to start with the third on the bottom, all right, and we're going to talk about different forms later. We can have the form in which we have the third on the bottom or the seventh on the bottom. To start with the third on the bottom. So the first thing we're going to start with is the guide tones for the C major 7th. There's the third and the seventh. Guide tones for the C minor 7th. There's the third and the seventh. Guide tones for the C7 chord. There is the third and the seventh. Okay, so all we do is we just start by playing the guide tones. Now, should we do the rootless chords in the left hand or in the right hand? Well, you really want to learn them in both hands, and that will make a little bit more sense in the second session that we're going to do a week from today. But I could tell you right now that let's talk about why you might want to learn them in the right hand, all right? There's a couple of reasons why you want to learn them in the right hand. Number one is that you could play shells in the left hand and then a rootless voicing in the right hand. So here's a C minor 7. Get a nice big full sound there. You can even do things like this where you're like kind of doing a chord on the left hand, a rootless chord in the right hand. Let's say that you're going to play a bass line. So here I'm playing my bass line, and I'm playing my rootless chords in the right hand. Third reason is we can also utilize these rootless chords for improvisation, which again we're going to talk about in the next session. But let's get into chord tensions. I have this chord tension chart here that you could take a look at. These are different chord qualities. The basic symbol that you might see, C minor 7 flat 5, C little m 7 flat 5, C with the circle with the line through it 7. These are chord tones, and then these are your available tensions that can work over this. You know, like I said, yeah, flat 9, you know, usually doesn't work all that well. 9 also is a question mark, 11, okay? So then what I've also done is I've also gone through here and I've created this for you. So now you have each one of your chords and then the tensions that work over it. So I could add a 7th to my C6 chord, a 9th, a sharp 11th. Okay? And then what does that look like? Well, as we start to break these chords up, right? And if I'm gonna do like maybe shells and I'm saying like, okay, I could play a C6, but let me throw the 9th and the 7th in there, or throw the 5th and the 7th in there. Okay, so I can utilize this as a chart to help me build up my chords. These are not necessarily just for rootless chords. You could do it for any chord. It's just helpful to know what notes work on certain chord qualities. Next one, minor 7th chords. So we have an iReal Pro track for that as well. Let's do that, and let me play those just so you can kind of hear them all. C minor 7th. And you can comp this as well if you wanted to. It's a great opportunity to work on your comping. I'm going to fix this A flat minor. Those should be flats. D flat minor. F sharp minor. I'm going to play that up here actually. It would sound very boring and very stale. Now, you might also be wondering about this right here. So, this spot right here. So you notice that you have move this down, you have right here, that is an E, but then you're going to a D right here, right? So now what do you do with that? Well, see what I did? I just moved my thumb out of the way. So, and also by playing that chord short, then I can get my right hand in there. All right, now moving on, the F sharp minor, remember, just playing this as a basic block chord. You don't have to play rootless chords for all of your chords. And in fact, sometimes you might even utilize shells, even when working with a bass player, because the rootless chord might be a little bit too low. All right, so here, just regular F sharp minor, 7 flat 5 with the 7 roots, 3rd and 5th. B7, flat 9, see I have the flat 9 in there, and I'm adding in the flat 13 as well. Remember we talked about those chord tensions. Do I have to have flat 13? No, I could have natural 13 with flat 9, but this is where I want to start to utilize my ears, right? Does that sound good? Or now, bear in mind, you might say that both of them sound bad. So then the real question is, which one sounds better, right? That or this? Let's look at it from a theory standpoint for a second. Look at this with the natural 13th in there along with the melody. What do you notice? The melody is the 7th, the natural 13th is right here. This creates a flat 9 interval. Flat 9 interval, a very easy way of knowing a flat 9 interval is it's a half step, or it's an octave and then go up a half step. Okay, so octave and up a half step, there's your flat 9 interval. All right, flat 9 intervals do not sound good. All right, they really rub on the ear. Now you might say, well, wait a second, what about the flat 9 there? If the bass player is playing the B there, well, see the thing is here, when it's interacting with the melody, it really rubs. The bass player, it's a different instrument, so the timbre of the instrument is going to soften the sound of that voicing. And also, the B is going to likely be down here, right? So now you have like more than an octave. If I did that, you could hear it really rubs, but that's not as bad. As you see, the farther away you get, it sounds more pleasing to the ear. So a lot of times with flat 9, I'll throw in the flat 13 as well. So oops, I'm sorry, we were on this one. Okay, so. Same thing here. See how I get the thumb out of the way? Now, when improvising, utilizing the rootless chord. So like I said, we can utilize our chord tones for improvisation, but those chord tones don't have to just be block chords. So when I'm looking at Autumn Leaves, obviously I could just use A minor, right? D7. And again, I'm thinking of this in inversions, right? Okay. So if I just put on my iReal Pro track for Autumn Leaves, and I'm not even going to play anything in the left hand. I'm just going to improvise in the right hand just to make it a little bit easier for you. So now, let's talk about utilizing rootless chords in the right hand. Why would you utilize rootless chords in the right hand? Well, a lot of times, if you're accompanying yourself, you're not going to play the melody. So again, I'm not a singer, but well, here, let's go to this since I'm not a singer. Do that. All right. So if I'm going to accompany myself, I might be like, no one to walk with, all by myself. No one to talk with, but I'm happy on the shelf, right? Now I'm playing the rootless chords with the left hand, but now, well, who's playing the bass, right? So, I mean, if I'm playing with a bass player and everything, well, that's fine. Now, one thing that I can do is if I'm playing with that bass player, then I can utilize rootless chords in both hands. Let me show you what that sounds like. So that's a good technique as well. All right. So that'd be no one to walk with, all by myself. All right, so here I'm utilizing 3-note voicings. I'm bringing in some tension here on that F7, right? I could do the 3-note voicing this way and just not do any tension. Well, I have the 13th, but I don't have the same tension as like a sharp 9. The B flat, add in the sharp 9. I could do that as well if I'm on the F. The G minor, I could just play the 3-note voicing. C7, sharp 9, and then F, D. So that is your 3-note voicing. So there are many different ways and reasons why you would utilize your 3-note voicings, but those 3-note voicings are also just as valuable to know as your 4-note voicings.